For the first time in this pandemic, an election in Canada is being derailed by COVID-19. Newfoundland and Labrador, which had kept case counts low for almost a year, is in the midst of a rapidly escalating outbreak. And now the provincial election set for Saturday has been postponed, but only for half the province. People living in and around the St. John's region, where case numbers are surging, will have to wait to vote in person. The case count keeps rising there. A record-breaking 100 new positive COVID cases were reported today. There are now 210 active cases. That's the highest number in Newfoundland and Labrador since the pandemic began. The province's chief electoral officer says the situation is too volatile to allow the full election to go ahead. The leader of the PC party calls it an affront to democracy that creates two classes of voters. He wants voting postponed across the entire province. Ross Lord has our top story tonight.
Compounding the dread of a midwinter election with a sudden outbreak of COVID-19 is a no-win situation, especially for Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Andrew Furey. His plan to boost a Liberal minority government into a majority by calling an early election has backfired.
The decision was mine. The problems, no one could have predicted where we would be today.
We're pretty well locked down right now.
Despite another day of record cases, the chief electoral officer has decided 22 of 40 ridings will still vote this Saturday. But Bruce Chalk has postponed in-person voting for the other 18 ridings, most of them in St. John's and surrounding communities where the outbreak is centered. In a letter to party leaders, Chalk noted, electoral workers, many part-time and elderly, will not work in the current climate. He added, more individuals will choose their personal health over working in the election, and polls will not be able to open. The province's top doctor doesn't exactly endorse the decision.
Mr. Chalk made his decision based on, I'm sure, quite a number of factors, and, it is what it is. So, I think that if we can do the election this way, that's great.
It takes a lot to postpone elections in Canada. In 1997, historic floods from the Red River devastated farmers and put pressure on elections officials to postpone voting in parts of Manitoba. But they insisted the vote go ahead as planned. COVID-19 is a whole other story. In-person voting in the St. John's area won't happen until a later date. People can vote by mail-in ballot in the meantime. But some voters say it's time to forget about the election.
I think they've got to push it back. We're talking months here. It should be the summer at the earliest, at the absolute earliest.
It's unclear what all this dysfunction means for who eventually wins and whether Andrew Furey's election gamble can still pay off. Ross Lord, Global News.